And welcome back to Adventures in Inbetweening, episode 21. My name is Paul, and today we're going to be talking about squash and stretch. You can see, based on my dinosaur here, I'm turning from pixels into 2D drawing. Now, initially, it was just going to be something I was masking, but I decided to draw it. So let's look at some examples of squash and stretch. Here in Falling Hare from 1943, you can see the gremlins taking the hammer to the bomb. And before impact, the hammer is stretched out, really, just a big simple shape. On contact, boom, we get the squashing, we get the compression. We always want to try and keep a similar volume so that if something gets skinnier, then it's going to get taller. It's just that principle in life that we see that we want to emulate. And of course, 1943, here's another hammer with Daffy Duck. And we're stretching out here. Look, I mean, the stretching out shapes are terrific. And this just shows our entire action here. Boom, on impact, everything is compressed. You've even got perspective on there, on the compression, and then it settles back into its regular shape. Now, this is all inspired by real life. Look at this soccer ball hitting one of the slow-mo guys at 1,000 frames a second. The ball compresses, compresses, compresses. Now you can see what's happening with the face. The face is squashing, the skull is starting to move, and all of the loose bits of the face, the nose, the lips, are all stretching and being left behind. The ball is moving in the opposite direction now as it starts to regain its form as it wants to, and the face is going to be completely distorted as much as possible. You can even see the eye that gets hit by the soccer ball is the one that closes first. Another one by a tennis ball here, ScienceLuxembourg. The crazy shapes on that. And ModernistCuisine filmed some gelatin falling down. So this is kind of I'm going to use this a bit more directly, this inspiration here. You've got a jello cube, you've got something that's gluey and gooey. That's kind of the feel that I want from my dinosaur. And you can see all the different directions here. And so with this cube, look at the wave that travels through the cube. And I'm going to use a few lines here just to illustrate how I would represent all that complexity. I mean, there's hundreds of different waves going in different directions here, and to represent them all is, you can't represent all of them in 2D animation, so you have to simplify it and just pick the biggest ones. So I'm thinking, okay, as my dinosaur, my pixel dinosaur splits apart, I'm going to have this goo emerge that's going to form into our 2D dinosaur. So I'm kind of having it come up like a bit of a volcano, thinking about, okay, it's starting out thick and then it's going to go thin. It's transferring all the volume into the top again, thinking about the overall volume. It doesn't have to be exact by any stretch. And I've drawn a couple highlights on there that I'm going to change into different colors later on. And as it starts to come down, we need to start revealing some of the details. Now, when I talk about volumes, volume just means that we don't want to see something tiny get suddenly huge or something huge get too small. That just kind of feels magical. It doesn't feel like it really adheres to the physics of our natural world. So as long as we have something close, it doesn't have to be exact by any stretch, but if something is, like I say, if something's getting wider, then it should get shorter. Like here, you can see the nose is out to the one side, the horn is out to the other side, and the entire dinosaur is shorter. I'm also dragging the tail behind, so as the body comes down and then starts to move up, the tail is going to continue moving down. So I'm emulating some of that wave function that we saw in the gelatin there. There's a lot of principles at work here. I'm using squash and stretch. I'm using drag and overlap and offset. I'm using overshoot and settle. I'm introducing the key details gradually. And there's a lot of, you can see there's a lot of erasing that I'm doing here as I'm flipping through these. I'm not using a lot of, sometimes I'm using the onion skinning. I'm going back and forth between onion skinning and flipping. I'm flipping all the time though, regardless of whether I'm using onion skinning or not. And it's making a lot of decisions in real time and changing my mind a lot. You can see that I erase a lot as I was drawing something. And see here now I'm using a principle I talked about before, using the cutouts. And so I'm taking something that exists already and I'm just squashing it, stretching it, and avoiding having to redraw everything. There are some times that I do have to redraw everything, but if I can ever modify something existing, then I'll do that. So flipping, 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 getting the feel of it. And this is 15 times speed. So there was a, like I say, there was a lot more decision-making process involved here. This is all about an hour and a half of drawing that I've compressed down to 5 minutes. And so flipping, 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 checking those volumes, stretching it out, making sure that it's feeling good. Now X there I put because I needed to redraw those feet and the tail. Those in-betweens just weren't working well. And this is something that, it's another principle called, in 2D animation, call it trace back, where if you have something that's not moving, you don't want it to just be completely static. You can, but in this case I want to have it feeling like it's moving. So you get this sense of boiling lines, and that's when you do a really tight in-between. And in that case I wouldn't be flipping so much. It's just more of a straight in-between with the onion skinning. So now I'm doing 30 times speed as I'm painting it up here. I'm using some of the existing paint and skewing that as much as I can. There's a lot of refining, a lot of iterating with this. This animation isn't something you generally get first time. If you could just say, okay, this is exactly what I have, and just draw it first time, then this wouldn't take an hour and a half compressed down to 5 minutes. This would take 15 minutes or whatever amount of time, the amount of time that it would take to move my hand. And so I'm going through, adding some detail, adding some tones here, flipping, flipping, flipping. I don't have onion skin on at all here. This is all just about making sure there's no color pops. Filling in those eyes, introducing the eye gradually as it comes down. Painting in the tones on the yellow there, on the stomach, on the spikes, on the horns. Yep, flipping, flipping, flipping. That's all feeling pretty good. Now I'm erasing a lot of those pencil lines. And here we are at 1 time speed. Reveal, ba-doom, ba-doom, squash and stretch. And half speed, changing for pixels, open the mouth, here comes the goo. Bloop, 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 bloop. And one more time at full speed. Yep, I'm happy with it. And that's squash and stretch. Thanks for checking it out. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.